Hey, and welcome to my channel where I experiment with different materials and techniques. In this video, we use liquid latex to pour latex lace. This video is the first part of my Misa Amane cosplay series, and this time we are trying to make her signature gauntlets from latex because the idea of making one material look like another material fascinates me for some reason, and this just sounds like a really fun experiment. I tried to look for good reference photos of these gauntlets, and it looks like there's two versions of them that could be considered official artwork. In the anime, you can see that the gauntlets are completely made of lace, but I also found this image where you can see that part of the gauntlet is a black solid material. I chose to go with this design because it requires less of the latex lace and because I wasn't sure if the lace would withstand a lot of stretch to begin with, so maybe if I use just a little bit of it, the chances of this working out would be higher. In fact, I had no idea if this experiment would work out at all, but that didn't stop me from trying. So here's a rough sketch of what the finished product would look like, and on the right are the pattern pieces I would draft for the black latex and the lace. So to cast the lace, we need some liquid latex and a mold. This mold is just a silicone fondant mold I ordered from Amazon. You can find the link for this in the description below. I think this particular one is perfect for what I am doing, as I can get a continuous sheet of lace and the floral pattern is close enough to what Misa is wearing. I didn't have talcum powder as it apparently can contain asbestos and therefore cause cancer, so they don't sell it where I live. Interestingly, it's still being sold in the baby supply section where I grew up, and in my other home country, kids and adults would smear their faces with that stuff during some holidays or even on a daily basis. But anyway, I'm using cornstarch to dust the surface so that the latex wouldn't stick to the mold. This was actually not necessary, as you will see later, and I've also heard that cornstarch might make an existing latex sensitivity worse. I don't know how true that is, but just thought I'd mention it anyway. The type of liquid latex I'm using is actually the same ammonia-based latex milk I use to rubberize my zippers for latex clothes. That's the only thing I really know about this particular liquid latex. It doesn't even say what concentration of ammonia is in the mixture, but it's definitely more than what they put in liquid latex that is used to create special effects makeup on people's skin. I've heard that that type of liquid latex is not suitable for casting sheets, but I'm not even sure if the latex I'm using is suitable for casting, so it's all just a big experiment. I want to cast black lace, so I added a couple of drops of acrylic paint. This one is a highly pigmented paint used for airbrushing, and once mixed with the liquid latex, the mixture looks grey, but once the latex cures, it will turn darker. If I didn't add any pigments to this, the latex would dry to a translucent yellowish color. I start by applying the mixture on the mold with a plastic spatula. I have to work pretty fast, as the latex will dry pretty quickly, both on the mold and the spatula, which can cause the spatula to stick to the already spread latex and mess everything up. I'm trying to get the liquid in the mold and scrape off any excess so that in the end I will be left with just the lace pattern. Not sure if it will be possible to get the pattern out in one piece, but for that reason I'm only casting a small piece first so that I don't end up wasting material. Also, in the other corner I'm building a thicker layer of latex in case the details on the lace are just too delicate to get out of the mold. I used a hairdryer to dry the layers. This serves two purposes. The first one being that I can see if I need to cast more layers, and the other one is that I'm hoping that the heat would vulcanize the rubber a bit. Vulcanization is a method used to make the rubber more durable, and depending on the end goal, it's usually achieved with heat and addition of chemicals like sulfur. I don't happen to have sulfur laying around, but apparently heat alone can be used as well. I've heard that some people use an oven that is only used for crafting purposes, and depending on the source, the heat used could be anything from 50 Celsius to 100 Celsius, and the duration of the process can be from 8 to more than 12 hours. I don't have an extra oven, so I'm hoping that the heat from the hairdryer will do something. I also read that natural rubber is self-vulcanizing and that all it requires is a couple of days of curing. It's actually pretty difficult to find information about this when it comes to casting latex for clothing, as I feel like this is more often done for tires and other more common objects, so take this information with a grain of salt. Here you can see the latex that dried up on my spatula, and it seems pretty stretchy and durable, so I was pretty hopeful that the lace itself would also behave the same way. The latex shrinks a bit when it dries, so I ended up spreading 5 separate layers of latex and blow drying them in between. According to some sources that say that liquid latex vulcanizes at room temperature as time passes, you should add all the layers that you need within 48 hours, or there might be a risk that the layers don't fuse together. Something to keep in mind if you rubberize zippers as well. Once the lace had cured for 4 days, I decided to glue a piece of black latex on the thicker patch and a translucent gray latex on the more delicate lace. This is what I would be using for the gauntlets as well, as I don't think that the lace would be sturdy enough to be used without some kind of backing. The latex sheet is only 0.2 millimeters thick too, so it doesn't make things too bulky. I spread glue on the mold directly, and then I spread glue on the translucent piece. I only spread the glue on half of the piece though, as I wanted to see if the lace would stick to the piece even if the glue was only applied on the mold. The reason for that was that since the translucent latex was so thin, it started curling and it took forever to get back to a somewhat flat state. I was afraid that this would make gluing the final sheets on the lace difficult and result in an uneven lamination. I'm using a seam roller to ensure that the lace is attached to the latex piece, and for some areas I would use a dotting pen to press the surfaces together. I let the glue cure for 3 days, and after a week from starting this project, it was finally time to see if all this hard work paid off. To my surprise, everything came out intact. I was in a pretty good mood that day because I didn't think that this would work out, but it did, and this will open up so many possibilities for future projects. The lace also seemed stretchy enough to be used as a part of a garment, which was very, very exciting. The only thing I was concerned about was the white residue on the lace. I tried wiping it off with a damp brush, and I even tried washing the pieces underwater, but it wasn't coming out. I think I used too much cornstarch and it got casted in the latex, so for the next pour I washed the mold so there wouldn't be any cornstarch, as I noticed how easy it was to remove the latex from the mold anyway. So I went through all the same steps again, but this time I covered the whole mold with the liquid latex. After 5 layers and another week of curing, it was time to peel off the lace and check on the results. So the whole sheet came out intact, but it still had these white specks on it. I don't know if that was some cornstarch that I missed, or if those are actually trapped air bubbles and the latex for some reason cured to that color around them. Also, just a quick mention that this mold is made of food grade silicone, so it shouldn't have any plastic softeners in it, but just a heads up that some silicone molds could have chemicals in them that could harm the latex. I don't think it's the case here though. Anyway, the white spots will probably fade once the lace is polished, so here I'm cutting out sections for the gauntlets. Since I only have a limited amount of lace to work with, I have to be a bit creative with how to use the sheet. I also cut out pieces from black latex and I glued them to the lace strips. I noticed that once the glue touches the surface of the lace, that's where it will stick and you have no chance of repositioning the pieces or the lace will rip, so my seams were not glued very evenly. The lace would also want to stick to itself, so I had to be careful while working with it. The texture of the lace also shows through the black latex, but to avoid that, the lace could be glued on top of the black piece. I wanted to sandwich the lace between the black and the translucent latex for extra security, and I actually like how the seams look. It almost makes it look like the gauntlets were sewn together. Next, I had to figure out how to use the remaining lace to achieve the frills. Here I'm gluing pieces to both ends of the gauntlets, and it's actually pretty easy to blend these pieces together due to the texture of the lace. I also used scissors to follow the shape of the lace and cut out any excess translucent latex. Then finally I joined the sides together and let the gauntlets dry for a couple of days. Once the glue was cured and the lace hopefully had enough time to get vulcanized, I washed and polished the gauntlets. Here you can see that the lace doesn't stick to itself anymore after applying the polish. I'm using a thicker latex glove on my other hand to prevent my nails from poking through the lace, and I managed to get the gauntlets to both arms without ripping them. The gauntlets actually look surprisingly good. There's a couple of things I wish I could have done better. The first thing is that I had to piece together the translucent backing because I was running out of latex, but I didn't intend to use that patched part for the part of the gauntlet that would be under stretch. However, I completely forgot that when I was making these, so there's a spot where the latex is separating and the lace is holding everything together. Another thing is that I wish the mold was just a bit bigger so I could cast more lace at a time. It took me a week to cast a batch, and since I wasn't sure if the lace would withstand the tension in an actual garment, I didn't want to wait another week to cast another sheet. Therefore, the gauntlets are just a bit too short compared to Misa's gauntlets in the anime. That's also why I didn't cast lace for a pair of stockings this time, but let me know if that is something you think I should do, or if you have any other ideas for how to use the lace in the future. In any case, this was probably one of the most exciting experiments in a while, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Next time I will be making Misa's dress out of latex, so if you don't want to miss that, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments what you think about this video, and as always, thank you for watching and happy crafting!